Tornado Alley, home to 30% of the US's tornadoes since 1950. And it's moving. This shift could be a literal disaster for the people living in its path. Even worse, it means a new type of super tornado may be appearing. I'll explain it all in this video. Stick around. So, what is Tornado Alley, and why is it where it is? For most of the late 20th century, Tornado Alley was centered on the Great Plains, especially Oklahoma and North Texas, before that pattern began to shift. So why do tornadoes form here? Simple. The Great Plains sit where cold, dry air collides with warm, moist air. Under the right conditions, that clash produces rotating thunderstorms called supercells, the kind most likely to generate tornadoes. With strong wind shear, those rotating storms can tighten and drop tornadoes again and again across the plains. And if the sky in your area has been looking a little too dramatic, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll explain what's going on. Other countries get tornadoes too, but nowhere else has the US's non-stop Gulf-fed storm pipeline, which is why the real danger zone matters when it starts moving east. Meteorologists have observed Tornado Alley shifting east by 400 to 500 miles. Twisters are becoming more frequent in areas like eastern Missouri and Arkansas, western Tennessee and Kentucky, and northern Mississippi and Alabama. So why is Tornado Alley shifting east? As Gulf moisture pushes farther inland and storm patterns favor the Mississippi Valley, the ingredients that once lined up over the plains are now colliding farther east, creating the same tornado-friendly setups in a new place. This shift started making headlines in 2011. A super outbreak of tornadoes hit Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee. It was one of the clearest wake-up moments in modern tornado history. And it's not just rare events. The data backs it up. Since the 1990s, tornado activity has steadily migrated east, with the southeast now seeing a much higher share than it did decades ago. 2025 made that shift feel impossible to ignore. Not because tornadoes never happened outside the plains before, but because the clustering kept showing up in the same eastern corridors, again and again. But wait, there's more. The shift isn't just changing where tornadoes happen, it's changing what happens when they do. Yes, tornadoes have always occurred outside the traditional alley, even in places most people would never expect, but those were usually isolated events. What's happening now looks more like a long-term pattern, and that matters because the Southeast doesn't just have tornadoes, it has tornadoes and people. But here's the part people miss when they hear Tornado Alley is shifting. They picture the tornadoes moving east, like a neat little stripe on a map. But this isn't just a geographic change, it's a population change. The traditional Tornado Alley was dangerous, but a lot of it was wide open. Miles of farmland, small towns, long highways, low density. Now take a look at the new alley forming east of Mississippi. A tornado on open plains is scary. A tornado in a packed metro area is catastrophic. That's a mass casualty disaster waiting to happen. In the new Tornado Alley, they don't just hit a town, they hit entire metro areas. In the plains, a tornado might be visible from miles away across open land. The sky goes dark, the horizon changes, the funnel becomes obvious, and people may have more distance and time to react. In the plains, tornadoes tore across open land. But farther east, those same storms hit dense suburbs, turning wind into debris, outages, and people caught in the open. A major tornado in a metro corridor might destroy thousands of structures. And the worst part is that the shift makes it easier for a single outbreak day to impact multiple cities in the same line of travel. You aren't dealing with one town hit hard. You're dealing with a chain of communities hit in sequence, each one draining emergency resources and each one complicating the response to the next. The new alley isn't just more populated, it's more connected. So when tornadoes hit here, the damage spreads beyond the tornado path itself. And this isn't theoretical, it's already happening. And it creates several problems. One of the biggest is timing. Supercell storms are happening earlier in the year. Warm conditions are showing up sooner, and the southeast stays unstable for longer. The high season for tornadoes used to be May to June in the southern plains and June to July in the northern plains. But near the Gulf Coast, tornadoes tornado conditions can form earlier in spring as the air warms faster, and now scientists are seeing tornado-favorable conditions appear as early as late February and early March in some years. A longer season means more tornado days. More tornado days means more chances for multiple outbreaks. And multiple outbreaks means fatigue, not just for emergency services, but for the public. Because if people hear warnings too often, the instinct can become delayed, skeptical, or even slow. That's one of the biggest hidden risks of the shift east. Not just more tornadoes, but tornadoes become part of the background noise in places that were never built around the threat. Now, let's talk about why Tornado Alley moving east makes everything much deadlier. The southeast US and eastern Midwest are more populated than North Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. They also contain a lot more urban centers. Nashville, Tennessee alone has a metro area population of over 2 million, and Atlanta, which sits dangerously close to the heart of Dixie Alley, has a metro population of around 6.3 million. All those cities mean more houses, more stores, and more people, all in a tornado's path. And that multiplies danger fast. The 2011 tornado outbreak remains one of the deadliest and most destructive of this century so far. Tornadoes tore across the southeast, with hundreds of deaths and thousands injured. And that's the key difference between the old Tornado Alley and the new one. In the plains, a tornado can carve through farmland and still be a historic event, but fewer people may be directly in its path. In the southeast, the odds are higher that tornadoes slice directly into neighborhoods, apartment clusters, dense suburbs, and metro infrastructure. So more tornadoes in the wrong place becomes catastrophic. But that's only part of the story. The difference between surviving and dying isn't just the tornado's rating, but the structure you're inside when it arrives. In 2005, an F3 tornado tore through the Eastbrook Mobile Home Park near Evansville, Indiana. Homes were flipped, flattened, and others didn't just collapse, they vanished. Imagine that vulnerability, but scaled up across Dixie Alley. Mississippi has one of the highest concentrations of mobile homes in the US. Louisiana, Alabama, and Arkansas are also near the top. In other words, many of the states now at the center of the shifting tornado corridor contain the housing type least likely to survive tornado winds. So the shift doesn't just mean tornadoes are hitting more people, it means tornadoes are hitting more people living in structures that fail faster. And that creates a second disaster problem: shelter access. In many parts of the traditional Tornado Alley, tornado shelters, storm cellars, and reinforced safe rooms are more common. The threat has been understood for generations. It's expected. It's part of the architecture. But the Southeast has many areas where that expectation never existed at the same scale. Which means when tornado risk rises, the region has to catch up fast, without the time, money, and infrastructure to do it overnight. And even after housing vulnerability, it still gets worse. Because Dixie Alley has environmental factors that make tornadoes harder to see, harder to escape, and harder to survive. The Southeast is heavily forested, with thick vegetation and rolling terrain. That means visibility is worse. You don't always see a tornado coming from 10 miles away. You see it when it's already close, or you don't see it at all. And trees aren't just visual cover, they're debris too. Most tornado deaths come from debris, not wind, and in denser areas, the same storm becomes deadlier simply because there's more to be thrown around. And then there's the problem of terrain and travel. In flatter areas, people may have more long-range visibility and more options to escape a storm's path if they have time. In wooded and hilly areas, the tornado can be hidden. Roads wind and dip, trees block lines of sight. The storm can approach from behind terrain features you can't see through. This raises the risk of people being caught outside, on the road, or in unsafe shelter, right when Dixie Alley tornadoes are most likely to hit. A lot of its tornadoes happen at night, too. This region has weather patterns that can stay unstable after dark, and moisture flow from the Gulf can continue into nighttime hours. On top of that, tornado season here often starts earlier in the year, when days are shorter. So tornadoes are simply more likely to arrive when people are asleep. That matters because nighttime tornadoes are far more deadly. People aren't watching the sky. They aren't checking the weather. They aren't listening closely for warnings. They may not even wake up until the damage starts. It can be harder for people to interpret the urgency of warnings at night. If a phone alert wakes you up, you have seconds to understand what it means. Where you are, where you should go. Many people lose critical time just orienting themselves. And in many homes, especially mobile homes, there's no safe place to go in the first place. But even when people are awake, and even when they're watching for warnings, there's another threat that hides tornadoes in plain sight. The Southeast is prone to rain-wrapped tornadoes. That's when a tornado forms inside a storm that dumps heavy rainfall. So the tornado is literally hidden behind a curtain of rain. Sometimes you can't see those tornadoes with the naked eye at all. Rain, haze, darkness, and forest cover combine into one deadly problem. You don't know where the tornado is until it's already on top of you. That becomes a direct survival issue because many people respond visually, so meteorologists rely on radar to confirm the tornado is even there, which would be fine if radar coverage was perfect, but in parts of the Southeast, it just isn't. Even with radar, some tornadoes stay hidden until the last moment, and that delay can be deadly. These blind spots don't just exist in empty countryside, they affect towns and cities too. And when warnings come too late, people don't have time to reach shelter. Tornadoes don't give you an hour, sometimes not even 10 minutes, and those lost minutes change everything. And fewer people sheltering means higher death tolls. Officials have pushed for radar upgrades and new coverage, and some states are trying to close those blind spots. But even now, major population centers can remain patchily covered. In March of 2023, a tornado near Charlotte damaged over 200 homes and injured multiple people. And in June of the same year, a tornado destroyed a mobile home and killed the 54-year-old woman inside it. That radar is going to be vital, because there's another problem plaguing the new Tornado Alley, and it's one that's only getting worse: tornado intensity. We don't just see more tornadoes, we might start seeing bigger ones too. And this is where that super tornado idea comes back. Because when most people hear the phrase, they imagine one monster tornado that's stronger than anything ever recorded. But the real fear is something else. Instead of one tornado, you might get multiple strong tornadoes in the same day, sometimes in the same corridor, with long tracks, rapid back-to-back warnings, and damage spread across county after county. It's not just the wind speed that makes this super, it's how fast the disaster multiplies. And this new Tornado Alley is the worst place for that to happen. More people, more dense suburbs, more mobile homes, more trees and poor visibility, more nighttime storms, and in some places, weaker warning coverage. The result is a tornado disaster that behaves less like a single strike and more like a regional shutdown. That's how tornado disasters scale into long-term catastrophes, and it's exactly why a more populated tornado corridor is such a dangerous shift. Now, let's connect this back to the question everyone asks. Are tornadoes actually getting bigger? To understand intensity, let's take a look at the enhanced Fujita scale, a measurement system for tornadoes based on wind speed and damage. The scale runs from EF0 to EF5. EF0 tornadoes are considered pretty weak overall. EF5 tornadoes are catastrophic, capable of leveling well-built homes, throwing vehicles, and destroying infrastructure in seconds. And even though the scale stops at EF5, tornado winds can potentially exceed that category. But here's the thing. It doesn't take an EF5 tornado to cause mass fatalities. Imagine a region with more people, weaker housing, poor visibility, nighttime tornado risk, rain-wrapped storms, and patchy radar coverage. A tornado that isn't the strongest possible can still become a disaster there. And that's why the super tornado idea isn't only about raw wind speeds, it's about the entire package. The tornado, the timing, the visibility, the housing, the warning time, and how many people are in the path. This is why Tornado Alley shifting east is so serious. In some places, the warning comes late and there's nowhere to go. But that's not about weather, that's about resources. And there's one more reality that makes this shift worse. Some of the states facing the highest risk are also among the poorest in the US. As of 2024, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Alabama were among the 4 states with the lowest GDP per capita in the Union. West Virginia was the 4th. Poverty matters here because it affects everything. It means states have fewer resources to respond to disasters and tornado outbreaks, but it also means they have fewer resources to prepare for them in the first place. Not only more poorly constructed homes, but also states less likely to fund and implement warning systems, shelters, disaster preparedness programs, and building codes, either because they don't have much money to do so, or because they have a history of not spending too much on their state's emergency preparedness. But when tornadoes hit places with fewer resources, the outcome can be more deadly, and the damage can last longer. In wealthier regions, recovery is often faster because infrastructure exists to respond. In poorer regions, damage lingers and people stay displaced. The lack of expense and funding means that when Dixie Alley gets more disasters thrown its way, there will be little residents can do to prepare, or even be warned. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if tornadoes in Dixie Alley get bigger. More tornadoes in a place with more people means mega disasters either way. And in Dixie Alley, they're already here. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. It really does make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on MatPack.